Train the transition. Good morning, coaches. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the 4 phases of the game that kind of just sort of goes through typically in sessions. We don't really focus on it too much, and we just sort of expect it naturally to occur, and that's the transition. Typically we'll think, attacking principles. If we're, attacking that final third, how can we create overloads? How can we manipulate space to get in and behind the opponent? And if we're the defending team, we want to low block, we want to be compact, we want to minimize opportunities for the attacking team to succeed, and then we want to win the ball and do something with it. And then do something with it often, again, sort of gets lost in the noise. But this is just an idea for how we can think about using deliberate time and practice to specifically practice that transitional phase from both attack to defense and from defense to attack. So the setup we see here, there's 6 yellow attacking north towards the big goal, and there are 8 blue attacking south towards 3 small goals. One of the things that we try to do a lot with our players, and one of the strengths we have, is we have really fast wingers, and so we try to get our wingers into situations where they have 1v1s. And oftentimes what will happen is, our central midfielder will play the ball out wide to our wing, and our wing will get it, cut to the byline, and cross in and, ideally finish. But oftentimes that's not necessarily what happens. Oftentimes our winger will get into that good space, they will find that opportunity for the 1v1, and they'll cross it, and one of 2 things will happen. We'll get a shot, goalie collects or goes out, or the defensive team will win it and they will try to counter quickly. And so this setup is really to dial in on that specific moment. What happens when we don't succeed? What happens when we maybe get a shot off, the goalie collects, and the attacking team then transitions, or in this case, the blue team, who is just 1 possession, transitions, and then we as the yellow team have to defend. And so this is really to kind of dial in on that. So what happens, real simple, we start out, everybody's kind of set up in this orientation, and our midfield 8 or 6, whichever one, passes the ball into this outside 7. And this winger has a 1v1 in this small grid, and really for them, and this is for both teams, the idea is for them to get the cross in. So, blue is going to defend, but they're really not trying to defend outside of the grid, and similarly, the yellow is going to try to stay in this grid, and then they're going to get the cross off. And as soon as the cross occurs, then it's, what do we do? And so the onus on blue, for you, it's how can we win possession and how can we counter quickly? We don't want to just boot the ball unless there's an opportunity, if everybody is pushed up, if all the yellow have, gone forward, maybe playing over is the best thing to do. If it's not, what happens? How are we going to transition forward, assuming that we only have our midfielders and other defenders in support? And for yellow, cross comes in. Well, the play's not dead. This player is still in play. What happens if the ball is deflected back to this player and they start dribbling out? This player has to do something. They can't just sit and watch. How are we going to press quickly to regain possession? So we've lost possession as yellow. How are we going to press quickly to regain? And if we're blue, how are we going to transition forward to get out? And so this is just a very basic example of what this could look like when we focus on those transition moments. Other ways that we have looked at for our teams in terms of where do we often see transitional moments? We could do something similar. Could we find that, that little grid of space where we often see transition moments, throw-ins, balls played in from the goalie that are booted in that midfield area? What happens when we start the ball in that grid and we don't know who has possession, and immediately both teams have to deal with that transitional, we're going from attack to defense and defense to attack. How can we dial in on transitions, training the transition? Cheers.